Welcome to Wednesday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff live here on Giants.com as well as the mobile app. He's Paul Dottino. I'm Lance Meadow with you for the next 60 minutes. It is presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Multiple ways you to interact with us here on the program. 201-939-4513. That is option number one. If you decide to stay behind the computer screen, we won't judge you. That is option number two. He is at Giants WFAN. I'm at Lance Meadow. One word, last name, MEDOW. As a reminder, you can find the archive of this show and our entire podcast network on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and at Giants.com/podcasts. As we welcome you into our Giants podcast studio, it is presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. So, some interesting topics on the agenda today. Part one of our program is going to be a little mysterious. Paul has been on the edge of his seat leading up to this program. I can tell you, he has been anticipating this over the last few days. I don't even know how you got through the previous shows earlier in the week under these circumstances. But I commend you for doing that.
Whatever.
So that'll be part one. Then we've actually received some Twitter questions which we want to answer. And then, of course, we'll try to get to your phone calls as well. So a jam-packed program. And off the top, we're going to have Pearson. He's going to give us 5 or 6 different topics. And Paul and I will have to rank players that he throws out or whatever other subject matter that is thrown our way accordingly. And, Paul, I don't know if you saw this before Pearson gets started.
Yes.
This is a popular game that people are playing on social media where I've seen this done with NBA teams and NBA players where you have to rank 5 or 6, let's say, NBA teams, but you don't know the 5 or 6 going in. They're one by one thrown your way, and you have to place them accordingly.
And you don't know what's coming next.
And you don't know what's coming. So you have to judge whether or not, do you want to put the team too high? Do you want to put them too low? Because, for example, if we were doing, hypothetically speaking, the best edge rushers in Giants history.
Right.
And Lawrence Taylor, of course, you're going to save for number one. But let's say maybe the
And he might not even be on the list I have for
Correct.
him.
He may not be on the list. So you have to think a little bit before you process. So
that's
this is an
interesting.
historical exercise.
Blind rankings.
It's blind, but it's historical, Pearson.
Yep.
So I think that appeases Paul Dottino more so than any other member of the broadcast team. Because nobody loves history more so than the man sitting next to
now,
him.
if we were doing an NBA ranking, that would be easy because I would automatically put last everything I could for the Pacers, the Heat, the Bulls, and the Celtics.
Well, but see,
I despise all 4 teams with a passion.
If Pearson was smart, he wouldn't throw out any players who are synonymous with any of those teams. So he'd make it more challenging for you.
But this is NFL.
But yes, this is NFL,
This is
but
all
specifically
Giants
catering
related.
to the Giants. Correct. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do 5 or 6 off the top. And then after Paul and I get finished, if you want to weigh in, of course, you can do it on social media as well. Feel free to throw out your thoughts as well. All right, Pearson, let's go off the top. First topic here.
All right. Our first topic is Giants receivers.
Okay, so all time we have to rank these receivers that you are going to
This is
list
correct.
and name. Okay.
Yeah, but
Sounds good.
here's what I don't get about this.
Of course. We
Yes,
knew
we
that
already
was
have
going to be the
problems.
next thing.
But
Yes.
there's no validity to it.
There isn't.
No, of course. Well,
You just
it's
have
all
to try and get it
subjective. Yeah.
correct.
Oh, okay. It's just pure
I
guesswork.
won't change anything on the lists.
Okay.
So
Yeah, he
Okay.
did his fair share of homework.
All right.
Pearson was up
and this goes back
hours and hours
This goes
last
back
night.
to the 50s or beyond.
there might be 1 or 2 categories with stuff before the 80s or 70s.
Oh, well, you can go back to the 50s for
I
me.
understand that.
Well,
I wanted to make sure.
I'm glad we only care about you. You know, if you go back to the 50s, I mean,
I know.
would be okay doing that, but I can't say that I'm speaking from evidence
All right.
to
All
go
right.
by that.
Very good.
Yes.
All right, guys.
All right, here
Giants
we go. So, wide
receivers.
receivers.
Yes.
First one is Malik Neighbors.
Malik Neighbors. How
is
many?
1 through
By the way,
5.
1 through 5. Okay, I
Yes.
wanted to make sure we have the number. Okay. Malik Neighbors. Okay, do you want to go first, Paul? Why don't you go first for this one?
So I have to give him a number
from 1 to 5. And 1 being the
one
highest, 5 being
one
the
is,
lowest.
my guess, is the best guy on his
Yes.
list. is
Correct.
1.
Correct.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay. Well, I will base this on career, not based on just one season.
I think
so
that's
based
fair.
on career, all we have is 1 year. Heck, if we did that, Odell Beckham would be awesome, right, after 1 year. But
That's
how
fair.
did that career work out? Not as good as we thought it was going to. So I'll go, based on just 1 year, I'll go Malik Neighbors 5.
Okay, I'll go 4 because he did have a remarkable rookie year.
He did.
So I'm not going to dismiss that. To your point, Odell did too. But I think Neighbors has shown us enough flash, and something tells me Pearson's got a few curveballs our way. So I'm going to leave some leeway under those circumstances. I'll go 4. Paul goes 5 for Neighbors. Okay, who's next?
All right, Sterling Shepard.
Sterling Shepard. Okay. I'll go first this time with Sterling. Sterling has been solid if you look at his career, but he did deal with injuries. You know, I'm going to go Sterling Shepard 5 on this one.
And I'll go 4.
Okay.
Look at
And
you guys.
only because of his longevity and the years that he had, it seems to me, you would have to put him above Neighbors right now. Neighbors has 1 year. Shepard had several years.
No, and
And
I
by the way,
understand your
Shepard
logic.
also played for a playoff team.
And I understand all of your reasoning, but I guess since Pearson also did not throw out rules in terms of how we can think about it, just like when we went through the NFC East rankings, my feeling is with Neighbors, it's projection. I think when it's all said and done, he's going to have a better career than Sterling Shepard.
I'm sure he
so
will.
right now, I'm willing to give
As
him
long
the
as he
slight
doesn't
boost
screw it up.
at 4.
I understand.
Where's the optimism out of you? I mean, what's going on here, Paul? I mean, I would think you would have the positive
You
outlook.
know me.
I got to convince you.
I'm the
in
king
this
of
department?
anti-hypotheticals, and so are you.
No, that's
You
true, but I
actually
would think-
despise hypotheticals as much as I do.
Listen, I do not like hypothetics, but based on this exercise,
Okay.
I'm willing to jump out of the box
All right.
a little bit.
Well, I'm still
open-minded.
I'm still taking
Yes.
Shepard's longevity.
That's fair. Okay, so we've got 4 and 5
Yes.
in a different order.
Got 3 spots left.
yes.
All right, Ike Hilliard.
See, he's tweaking me right
Well,
here.
that's why I said you have to anticipate and
He's
prepare for
tweaking me
this.
right here because
You have to.
Ike is one of my
You have
all-time
to.
pound-for-pound favorite Giants. Wow.
He's tugging at the heartstrings and pulling at them.
I'll go Ike 3, and I don't have a problem with doing that.
I'm with Ike 3 as well.
Wow, leaving the top 2 spots open. All right.
Yeah.
Next one is Phil McConkey.
It's your turn, right?
No, it is. I thought you were going to throw something out. It looks like you
Well,
were.
I was going to say
at the-
something funny. But maybe I should just let you pick. But I was going to say something
Well, our
funny.
options are limited at this point.
Yes,
of
they
course.
are.
So McConkey to me is absolutely 2.
Well, yeah.
I've got nowhere to go based on those circumstances, and I'm certainly not putting him number 1.
We don't have anywhere to go.
Correct.
I mean, other than like if he comes back with like
It could.
Mike Sherrard,
Listen,
we're going to be in big trouble.
Well, that's what happens with something like this.
You know?
Sometimes you come out of it looking fantastic, and other times not
Right.
necessarily the case.
Well, all right. McConkey's got to be 2.
Look at that. You guys left number 1 for Plaxico Burress.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, and
That's a
I'm
pretty
not-
good list, guys.
Correct. I have no problem with that, actually. See, I had a feeling that there was somebody he was holding on to. And say all you want about the off-the-field stuff, Burris left quite the mark in terms of his on-field presence. And you're talking about length and Eagles defensive backs being impossible to slow him down. I have no problem with, after all this is said and done, and you look through, if I knew all 5 names, how about this? I still think I'd go Plexico, number 1. If you knew all 5.
With those 5?
Yeah, I'd still go Plexico.
Absolutely,
number 1.
100%.
So,
Yeah, you guys did that pretty well.
Plexico
Exactly.
Burris had probably, let's put it this way, no one had more of an impact at wide receiver than Burris on Giants history over his 3.5 seasons when he was in the lineup for this team as a starter. And I'm talking about Homer Jones, Aaron Thomas, Del Schaffner, to go back to some of the old guys. And then recently, Cruz, Toomer, Nix, Beckham, some great receivers. But you could argue that Burris would not take a backseat to any of them for that 3.5-year stretch.
and if you do want to take into consideration, because I know you did that with Shepard about being on a playoff team, I mean, McConkey does have hardware.
He does.
So if you want to use that to elevate him, once again, I'm not saying that his numbers are 10 times better than anybody else behind him, but you could say that's deserving of a bit of a boost. So now that we have the 5 listed, basically you and I, we agreed with Plexico and Phil, 1 and 2, and Ike Hilliard 3. The only difference was you went Shepard 4, I went Neighbors 4. That was the difference. Yeah. So, all right. I think we survived the first go-around.
Are we supposed to be opposites here? Or are we supposed to come to a?
You can do whatever
We
you
can
want.
do whatever you and I
I
can
thought
go.
we were supposed to come to a consensus.
No,
No,
I think
you're
we can,
good.
We can
We can
leave
have
it
separate
at the fact
lists.
that, you
All
and I
right.
had separate lists.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
sure.
All right.
Absolutely. Okay, so that was wide receivers.
Yep. Now we got Giants running backs.
Running backs. Okay, here we go.
First one is
5 again, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
They're all 5.
They're all 5.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Joe Morris.
I'll go Joe Morris 3.
He's thinking. Listeners.
Well, because the Giants have had almost a dozen 1,000-yard rushers in their history, and only a few of them have been multiple 1,000-yard rushers, including Joe.
Yep.
Now, Joe only has 1 ring, though. That kind of changes things because Jacobs has 2 and Bradshaw has 2. So, you would want to put those guys probably ahead of him. If
He
he's
has
got,
3 1,000-yard seasons, though.
Yeah, oh, I know, but only 1 ring.
Sure. Well, it's not too shabby. The last.
No,
time
I get it. I get it.
Shame
I get
on
it.
him for only having 1.
And that
The audacity.
And then where do you put Rodney Hampton? Where do you put Tiki Barber?
Well, don't you think that was going through my mind
All
too?
right,
But
Joe
I think
Morris- Joe
3
Morris-
is a good way to go because it's in the middle. So
Joe Morris is 4 for me.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
You guys good on the next one? Let's do Tiki Barber.
Well, as Paul predicted, the floor is yours, my friend.
Tiki Barber's a borderline Hall of Famer. I think there's arguments for and against him. I think he's right there on the cusp. I don't think there's another running back who has that kind of resume for the Giants. So he's got to be number 1.
Wow. Well, the one thing that I didn't hear you throw out was what's not around his finger, though.
I know.
Joe has one.
Yeah, well,
So-
Tiki did go to a Super Bowl.
No,
And
that's
had
true.
and had a
He did. In
3-year
2000.
run
Yeah.
that was as productive as any running back in NFL history. Him and Marshall Faulk had 2 of the best 3-year runs the league has ever seen,
Well, and of course, Tiki, which is what I think you were touching on, the receiving skills.
without question.
is
That's all part of
putting
it.
him in pretty much a unique category.
We talked about Barkley potentially one day breaking his records to be the all-time great Giant. Well, Tiki's the guy until somebody passes him. That's easy. That's an easy one.
Well, and I also throw out the durability. I think helps his cause too.
Yeah.
Where do you got him, Lance?
I'm gonna go 2 though for Tiki. I'm not gonna go as high as Paul. I'm gonna go 2 for Barber.
But he's the greatest running back in team history. How could anybody be ahead of him?
Well, but other guys
All right.
have rings
That's all right.
and
All right.
what they bring to the
All right.
table. I think you can make an argument to put somebody ahead based on, of course, whoever
Johnny
is
Mack, knock some sense into him,
coming
please. Come on.
down the road here.
Come on.
All right.
I mean, 2 is not terrible. I didn't put him 5.
Okay.
Okay, who's next?
Orleans Darkwa.
See, this is why we leave flexibility because
Yeah.
I know Pearson could also go in the opposite direction. And no disrespect to Orleans Darkwa.
not at all.
We are big Orleans Darkwa fans on this program. We don't want anybody who's viewing or listening
He
to
was a
feel.
really good guy.
He did. He was one of those underrated backs, I would say. Now, with that being said,
He's 5.
he is 5. Correct. Yes.
So, sorry, I'm just looking up some of his stats now.
Well, I'll have it. I mean, I have
He was
my
only with the
chart.
Giants for like 3 years.
Correct.
That's
It was with them from 14 to 17.
That's it. It was not a long period of time. And,
That's true.
he didn't even get a
He had
ton of carries.
750 yards in 2017.
Yeah, that's
not
it.
bad.
That was the year he started 11 games.
Yep.
the
where-
only year where he was the primary starter.
Yeah. But he made the most of his opportunities.
He did. He was a good
that season.
player.
Yeah.
He's a good player.
All right.
I mean, he put up nearly 4.5 yards per carry.
Yeah, he was a good
When
player.
given
quality NFL player.
a bigger workload. Yeah.
And Brandon Jacobs is the 4th.
Another name you anticipated. Was going to be-
Absolutely, one of my guys
Yes.
too. One of my all-time favorites. I'm gonna say, wow. He has scored the most rushing touchdowns in team history. Just FYI. I bet you didn't know that.
No, I did not know that. I will admit I didn't know that.
He's
But
one
I'm
of-
just surprised that you're complimenting other backs not named Tiki Barber. Notice
Well,
you're throwing out
Brandon
some other
has
accolades.
2 Super Bowl rings.
Oh, okay. So he has 2 Super Bowl rings. He has the all-time touchdown mark.
Rushing
Okay.
touchdown mark.
I'm waiting for
Okay.
you to add a little bit more to his resume.
And
okay.
he despises the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, I would say probably a lot of those guys on that list.
Nobody despises them as much as Brandon Jacobs does.
And also, he doesn't have the numbers that Tiki. Jacobs is a really good receiver for his skill set. I would argue, for the way he was built. I don't think he gets enough credit. Remember,
I agree
he had
with
that
that.
big reception against the Cowboys.
I
if you
agree
recall.
with that. I
Yeah.
do think he was underrated in that regard, but when you talk about Giants running backs catching the football, he would not be one of the leaders.
No, I'm not, but I think that's one facet that not enough people bring up when describing his game, is what I'm saying.
All right, I got no problem putting Brandon Jacobs at number 2. I don't have a problem doing that. I think there are other guys who probably, in fact, for example, Rodney Hampton is really the guy who should be number 2. He really should be. Or Gifford should be number 2. But I don't know if he's going to have him on the list, so I'm going to put Jacobs at 2.
Well, and I'm thinking the same way. The fact that Orleans Darkwa was thrown out in this exercise, I know Pearson's thinking, I'm going to go Jacobs 1. Because I think the more and more you talked about him, you sold me on not risking putting him 4. I'm going to go Brandon Jacobs.
Okay.
The 2 rings on top of the all-time touchdowns, the physicality, the toughness. You could argue was the heart and soul of some of the teams that he was on.
Without a doubt.
He wore his emotions on his sleeve.
Yes.
I think you can make a very good argument for Brandon Jacobs 1, and I'm going there.
Sure.
All right, so what spots do you have open?
I have 4,
I got 3.
and he has 3.
So you can slot in Henry Hynoski in those spots.
You see, this is why I know how Pearson goes.
No, but
and
he's-
I'm even more
He's
content.
he was a fullback. He was not
See,
a...
you know he was going to bring up a technicality,
Yeah.
Pearson.
He doesn't count.
Well, but he's a back.
All right, fine.
That's on me, Paul.
Yeah, that is on you. You cheated.
Come on, he's got one of the great celebrations.
Sure, but
I love Henry, but he was a fullback.
Okay.
No, I get that, but it's not as if
I should have put
fullbacks
backs.
can't run. You know, Hynoski
I understand.
touched the football once in a blue moon.
Point being,
So-
he was. I'm sorry, but I'm very technical about these things, and that's a different position.
You fooled me on that, yes.
He's a fullback.
12
you got
carries
me
in
there.
his career.
Right.
The cutoff for this exercise was 11. Okay? Based on Pearson went to the very high authorities, okay? And 11. They said as long as somebody has 12 career carries, they could be considered a back.
See,
Yeah.
the one key to this whole thing is that if he's going to throw in, the curveball or the whammy, if you will,
Sure.
I know more whammies than anybody because my memory bank goes back to 1956. So I know a bunch of whammies that he could throw in there, and I know he can't do it because he's not old enough.
Well, but in fairness, he did make it clear. I don't know if you said this on the show or
He
before.
said there were 2 guys
Yeah,
pre-80.
so he wasn't going to go too far back. So I was thinking about that. So the fact that he wasn't going to go, because you threw out Frank Gifford, I didn't think he was going to throw out Frank Gifford based on that line of
see.
demarcation.
I see.
So
All right.
that's why you got to go through the thought process. That's a
Fine.
big part of this game. So, okay, so now that we review...
I don't want to go into his mind. He's a Boston Celtics fan.
Well, I mean, that to me is irrelevant based on this exercise.
it's a great
but that's
place
fine.
to be.
Yeah. It's not as if we're ranking New England Patriots all-time players. But as we get back to the
They don't
topic
have
at
any.
hand,
Yes.
we'll save that for another show.
0-2 in the
where we
Super
really need to
Bowl
think
against this
outside
team.
the
That's
box.
all I got
All
to
right,
say.
give us your list
Go
real
ahead.
quick.
So mine was Brandon Jacobs, Tiki Barber, Joe Morris, Henry Hynoski, and Orleans Darkwa. Now, you had Tiki 1, you had Jacobs 2, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah.
Then I thought you went Morris 4. Didn't you go Morris 4?
Hino was 3.
Yeah, Hino was 3, Morris was 4, and Darkwa was 5. Okay.
Yes.
So, once again, I would say, I'm sure you're content with Tiki, looking back with all 5. Would you say if you knew all 5, you'd still go with Tiki?
Oh, absolutely,
One?
I
Okay.
would.
And
I don't have a problem with Jacobs being 2 either.
So I would say for the second time, no, because that to me is what's most meaningful about this. It's when you look back at all 5 names, do you still feel good about number 1? I mean, we could sit here
Okay.
until we're blue in the face,
Yeah,
too.
about
but I
rearranging.
think you want to feel good about who you chose 1. Would you do it again? That's why I'm always going to ask that question.
1 was easy.
After we get done.
One
And
was
I would
easy.
say, Pearson, the 2 of us are content.
Those are not bad lists, yeah.
Wide receivers and running backs. Okay.
All right.
Number 3.
Next one is Giants seasons.
Seasons. Okay,
Yep.
so see,
Oh,
this
Jesus.
is not individuals.
Like years, basically,
Years.
including
Okay. Now, the
playoffs.
rule of thumb still holds true that you're not going to go beyond.
I won't go before the 80s.
Okay. Just so that we can fully understand. Okay.
All right. 2022.
Though, if you wanted to go into the 1920s or whatever, I have no problem.
2022
The
season.
Roaring 20s were big for Paul. You just ask him. Yes. Go ahead.
2022
That's not
season.
nice.
2022. You said 2022?
Yep.
Okay. 2022. In fairness, I'm going to cheat a little, at least review, just so that I could see.
Yeah.
Dude, they
what
went to the
season-
playoffs
No,
and they beat
I-
Minnesota
I
on the
know.
road.
No, I'm well aware of what happened. I'm just saying I want visually. I just want to see things. I'm not because I have no idea what other years he's going to throw out. 2022, 9-7-1, as you mentioned. A lot of close games. Did win a playoff game. My rule of thumb is don't get too high, don't get too low. 2022, I'm going to go number 3.
I got 4.
Okay.
Okay. 1986.
Ha ha!
Well, you don't have to. go
That's
crazy.
pretty easy.
Yeah.
Do you remember what happened that year, Paul?
Yeah, I do. That has to be. Again, this is like the Tiki Barber question. That's an automatic number 1. It's the team's first ever Super Bowl.
True, but
you can't change or diminish the first ever.
well,
First ever Super Bowl. Phil Simms, greatest performance in postseason history by a quarterback.
against Denver, yeah.
There is no debate. That's
but
one.
you were just reminiscing about the 2 wins over the Patriots. What happens if 07 and 11 are included? Specifically 07, when they knocked off a team that was in position to make history. You're going to tell me that's not more notable? You'd still put that 2.
2.
Even after 86.
2.
And 90 with the Bills wide kick? I'll go.
Dude, if you
Yeah.
were alive longer,
I was alive. I was on this earth.
no, but if you were like
Yes.
really old like me,
Okay.
and you understood the Yale Bowl years and the Shea Stadium
I
year,
get it. I
and
understand.
some of the horrible times from the black hole of the mid to late 60s, if you understood all of that, you would understand that 1986 is irreplaceable.
No, and I think, though, there is a very strong case to be made for 07, though.
I agree.
And anyone who wants to go
And-
down that
and
road,
I would have
who
no
even
problem-
lived through the Yale Bowl.
I would have no
Can make
problem
that. Yeah.
making that number 2. In fact, it's a close number 2. But Super Bowl 21, there's nothing that could ever replace that. And for those of you who are young and were not alive to see it, I'm sorry. Please get yourself a copy of it and
On
watch
VHS,
it and
yes.
understand what that day meant to this franchise.
With that being said, I will go
Johnny
2
Mac, tell him.
for 1986.
I've heard many stories about
Okay.
how awful those years were.
All right.
All right.
So I got 2. Paul has 1
Yes.
for 86. Next.
The next one is 2008.
Okay. The
Year
coulda,
after
woulda,
the
shoulda
Super Bowl.
season. 2008, which was a great regular season. I mean, I remember the game that stands out to me is the Carolina game, where you had what those 3 running backs did against the Panthers with over 200 rushing yards. But the fact that there's no hardware attached and it ended in disappointment, I'll go 4 for 2008.
It's got to be 5 for me. Now, you know the
Remember,
problem.
he threw out Orleans
Well,
Dark
here's the problem.
You never know what
He could very
throw out.
easily throw out 1983, which was my first year covering the team, and Parcells, we won 3 games that year. It was brutal.
How is that number 1 though?
No, but that's
In
the
Giants
problem.
history? No, but
'cause-
you arrived on the scene. That's
no,
number
what I'm
1,
saying.
period.
No, but
See,
that's a good point.
See, how do you not put that
That's a
ahead
good
of
point.
86? See?
You're right.
Look at this. It evolves.
But what's going to happen is if he throws out 1983, it's going to have to be now 2 or 3 for me, and that's just disgusting.
Well, listen, you left the door open for Henry Hynoski. You could do it for 83. Okay.
All right,
All right.
you guys good?
Yes.
Let's
He
do.
put 5, I put 4 for 08.
Okay. 2000.
Okay, hey, they made a Super Bowl. So it's not as if that season gets downgraded.
Greatest NFC championship game romp in the history of the NFL, 41-0 against Minnesota. Kerry Collins broke 3 NFC championship game passing records that day. He was sensational. Oh, boy. That's the greatest victory probably in Giant Stadium, in the old building before it
In
was ripped
terms
down.
of margin of victory, yeah.
Most important, too.
Sure.
I mean, although I guess, let's go back to the 86 championship game against Washington. But that was expected. I always thought they would beat Washington in that game. To me, that was a no-brainer. But the game against Minnesota, everybody had the Giants a heavy underdog against that Vikings team, and I was for sure that the Giants would beat them. And they crushed them, 41-0, man. Culpepper, And that offense, wow. Think about those guys, Carter and Reed and Smith in the backfield and Culpepper firing the football. Wow, that was unbelievable. All right, I'll go 3. I can't put it at 2, but I'll go 3.
Going back and forth because, see, something tells me he may not even have 07 and 11 in the mix.
Why do you think I saved the second spot?
So that's why
There's only one more.
I know.
there's only one more, and if I put my options are 1 and 5. They made the Super Bowl, as you mentioned. The expectations weren't through the roof. 7 and 9 to a 13-win team, ran into a buzzsaw in Baltimore.
They
But
did.
that shouldn't take away from the dominant run through the NFC playoffs. If I knew all 5, I don't know if I'd put this one. I'm going to go 1 for 2000. That's what I'm going to go with. Because I think when you take into consideration, there's a lot of attractive items there. Even though they did not wind up winning the ultimate prize.
I still look at that. It's one of their 5 Super Bowl trips. So many people poo-poo it because of the way it ended against Baltimore.
Yeah.
I think that's foolish.
No, I'm with
Honestly,
you.
that team, nobody picked that team to go as far as they did. And Kerry was sensational. I mean, that was Ron Dane and Tiki Barber, and Stray was on that team. And, no.
Well, not to get off topic.
That was a heck of a season.
Without a doubt. The other thing that I was going to add is, and I know this is not necessarily maybe something that we need to take into consideration, but Kerry Collins, to me, is the most notable free agent signing in Giants history. And I have said this on multiple topics and multiple occasions because the fact that they got him to help build the bridge and what he provided bang for the buck, I will still stand by that argument.
Yeah.
So that's more of a reason why I'd elevate the 2000 season.
He's certainly one of the top ones, but, Kareem McKenzie, Antonio Pierce, Plexico Burris,
Most
those
important
guys
position,
are
though.
all,
No, I get it.
very, very high on that list.
Well, listen, Kerry getting him to a Super Bowl, though.
I know.
That helps his
I
cause
know.
immensely.
Well, Kareem won 2 Super Bowl
Sure,
rings
no,
with this team
no,
as a
but-
franchise right tackle.
No, without a doubt. But once again, quarterback is the
I
top
understand.
position. So, all right, number 5.
Do what you
All
gotta do,
right.
Pierce.
Whether or not we'll be disappointed or elated.
This is
the
where
moment of truth.
This is where he zaps
Yeah.
in one of those really bad stinkeroo seasons.
Well, that's what I'm banking on.
That's what's
going
gonna
to
happen.
Yeah.
2007.
Oh!
Paul's list is nice. Lance, put it in at 5.
Yep.
Wow. Not only is my list nice, it's perfect.
Oh, perfect.
It's
Okay.
exactly, it's 1 to
Patting yourself
5,
on the back.
exactly as it would have gone. If you would give me those 5, that's exactly how I would have had it.
Well, so read off what did you go?
1986, 2007, 2000, 2022, and 2008. That's exactly as I would have had it if you had given it to me.
I would have went 07-1. I would have went 86-2. I would have went 2003. And then I would have gone 22 and 08. That would have been my order if I would have known all 5.
See,
and
the-
remember, I was talking about 07. I just was thinking
Yep.
that he's going to throw us a curveball.
Hey,
and not
that's
include
why
it.
it's
Yeah.
just a game here,
The,
guys.
the 08
Absolutely.
season just, I know they made the playoffs, but it was one and done.
Oh, yeah.
And the Plexico incident, it just leaves such a bad taste in my
Well,
mouth.
in 22, they won a playoff game. It's hard to, how do you downgrade that and put 08 ahead of 22?
I know. Well,
right?
that's why
so
I'm
I'm
glad.
with you. That's why that order wouldn't have changed.
My 5 is
regardless.
perfect.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Next category is quarterbacks.
Okay.
Pearson, you get into my head on that last one, huh?
I know.
Don't you like swimming around in there?
No. It's too many Knicks things. Okay, quarterbacks. Y.A. Tittle is the first one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, see, you did go to an old-timer.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Well, this is your turn to go first.
Well, I mean, I'll allow you. You're that excited. I don't want to deprive you.
See, contrary to popular belief, I never saw Tittle play in person or on television. I've only seen film. Contrary to popular belief.
I love it how you preface those statements.
Well,
Go ahead. No, I'm listening. Yeah.
I've interviewed him. I've met him many times. It was incredible. I mean, he's...
If only he enjoyed it just as much. But yes, go ahead.
Folks, one day I actually had the opportunity to sit at a lunch table with Y.A. Tittle and Charlie Connerly, the 3 of us together. How about that?
What was on the menu? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Well, you said it was a lunch table.
Yeah,
so
but I don't remember
nobody
the food.
was eating. It was just...
No, I don't remember the food.
Well, you have to
It was,
cherish these moments
it was
here.
probably a piece of steak. I don't remember what the food was. I just remember sitting with those two guys, and it was one of the most incredible experiences of my life.
And they rank it just as accordingly.
I'm sure they do.
I don't doubt it. With that being said, okay,
All right.
Y.A. Tittle, where are you going?
YA.
Yes.
I'm gonna go. Oh, you're killing me. Because if you have Sims and Eli on this list, and I wind up putting
Just
Tittle,
pick a spot, Paul.
oh man, I'm going to suggest that you don't have both Phil and Eli on the list. Because if you do, they've got to be 1 and 2. So I'm going to say Tittle goes 2 because you don't have both Phil and Eli on the list. So I'm going to go Tittle 2.
Well, my philosophy has been give myself room and flexibility. I'll go 3 for Y.A. Tittle. And clearly, I was not around to see him and interact with him. But I will say
just
this.
remember when
Yes.
1 or 2 is the only slot you have left and he calls out Joe Pizarczyk, you're going to look really bad.
Hey, listen, it didn't backfire on me the last few times.
All right.
Okay, so I'm still happy. But I will say this. Y.A. Tittle is involved in one of the most iconic images in really football
Without
history.
question.
Okay,
The game
and I'm
in
talking about
Pittsburgh.
when he's down on his knees.
64.
And
in
you could
Pittsburgh.
tell
bloody
left it all out on the
bloody
line.
head.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have that blown up image. I was given that as a gift.
I'm
Yeah,
impressed.
no, without a doubt. I have a family member that gave me that as a gift several years back.
That is,
Yeah.
I think not only is it in the Hall of Fame, I think it was voted one of the top 10 images of all time.
Well, that's why I said,
Yeah.
without a doubt. So that's what I think synonymous with Y.A. Tittle, and I think toughness and just leaving it all out on the line.
Yes.
That's
it's a shame that it
what I
was
would
a
register.
defeated season because that was his last year. It was just miserable.
But it says a lot still about
But it
the
does.
player, though,
It
is
does.
my
It
point.
does.
Yeah. All right, so you got Tittle at 2. I've got him at 3. Next.
Okay. Kerry Collins.
Well, you know I think very highly of Kerry,
So do I.
based on what I
Very highly
had
of
thrown
him.
out.
I think he is very much underrated during his time here. It's your turn to go first.
See, now you're anticipating that he's going to have both Eli and Phil Simms.
No, I'm anticipating he's only going to have one of them.
He's only going to have one of
That's
them.
why I
Okay.
put Tittle number 2.
And I'm going to anticipate that he's only going to have one of the two. So that's why I am more than comfortable putting Kerry number 2 on my list. He got the team to a Super Bowl. I think he's the most valuable free agent signing in Giants history. Yes, I will stand behind that. Kerry Collins number 2.
Collins has to be 3 for me because he can't be ahead of Tittle.
That's fine.
That's impossible.
Okay, so
I love Kerry
we have them
Collins,
flip-flop.
but he cannot be ahead of Y.A. Tittle.
Okay.
And you do know what Y.A. stands for, yeah, right?
No, well, you're going to tell me.
Yeah, Verton
What is-
Abraham,
Okay.
just so you know.
I will store that away.
And,
then.
and the media
Yes.
in New York in those days used to call him YAT, for short.
Well, that I get.
Y-A-T.
Yeah, that acronym I understand. Sure. Did they
Alright.
call him by his full
They
first
would
name?
only call him, it was YAT or Y.A.
Or Y.A.
That's what people called him.
Makes sense.
I called him Mr. Tittle when I met him.
All right, guys. So, all right, we'll go Phil Simms.
Well, there's one of the two.
I knew that was going to be on the list.
But here's the thing. Even if you put Phil 1, I don't think... Yeah, I mean, if Eli winds up being in this, it's not going to come out pretty. But I'm willing... I'm going to jump ahead. I'm going to go Phil 1. I'm not risking this. Phil's got his place in Giants history.
Phil's one for me, too.
Okay, so
I got no
I'm
problem
I'm
with
going
that.
Phil. Now, if Eli once again is on this list, yes, I would have wound up putting him higher. But I've got
Yes.
Phil, Kerry, and Y.A. Tittle. That's not a bad
Right.
list.
And
One,
if,
two,
and if
three.
Eli turns up on this list and I have to put him 4, well, Kerry's 3. That's not horrible.
Sure.
I mean, he belongs ahead of Kerry, but if he's behind Phil Simms and Y.A. Tittle, that's not exactly a crime.
Okay, so we're both pretty much thinking the same way.
Okay. Next up is Jeff Hostetler.
Haas.
Listen, Jeff, a very valuable depth chart guy who
Pearson, you
stepped up
haven't,
immensely.
you haven't put one of the lesser guys in this list
I
yet.
know. I'm waiting for like his Orleans Darkwa of quarterbacks. Like, there's got to be
Right.
one. How that hasn't come yet? makes me feel that is due. I mean, there are so many good ones that Pearson could turn to. So, well, I'll let you go first.
He's got to have a whammy in here.
That's what I'm thinking too.
He's got to have a whammy. So the fact, and I liked Haas. Haas is a really good guy, and obviously what he did at the end of the '90 season cannot be ignored. So I've got no problem putting Haas at 4.
And I'm going to go the same way. I only have 4 and 5 to choose between.
I got 5.
I mean, the guy helped the team win a Super Bowl and came in when Sims was injured. I mean, how do you not value him from that standpoint? And that alone belongs out of the 5 spot.
And I know he's not going back to Connolly, because Connolly would have to be ahead, but he's not going back to Connolly. That's too far. So who else could he possibly have on the list who would be ahead of Hostetler from recent vintage? He's got nobody.
All right, here we go.
Because he's not putting Eli.
Well, he did the 2000. He did the 2007
season. On his list. There's no way.
I don't know. John's looking over his shoulders now. So.
He's not going to have Phil and Eli on the list. Well, he's not.
Okay.
Here we go.
Fran Tarkenton.
Ooh. Okay.
Paul, you got him 5? Wow.
That's bad.
No, he's.
Well, here's the thing.
Mr. Mobility.
Here's the thing. Here's the only reason, and I'm a big Tarkenton guy. You guys know that. When I was growing up, he was one of my handful of favorite players. But here's the thing. Sims, Tittle, Collins, Haas, all of them went to the postseason as Giants. Okay? All of them went to an NFL championship game or Super Bowl as Giants. Tittle and Collins didn't win one, but at least they got there. Fran Tarkenton, even despite his Pro Bowl seasons with the Giants, with some really rough teams, never got the Giants to a playoff.
And there were 4 of them, 4 Pro Bowls.
Okay? So, to be frank, out of 5 seasons he was
Correct.
with us.
Yep.
Okay? So, to be frank with you, the fact that I have to put him at 5 isn't exactly a crime either. Now, again, based on his full career and his 4 Pro Bowls with the team, it's a low ranking. He certainly would belong ahead of Hostetler. But the fact that he was never able, despite the fact that it wasn't really his fault. I mean, he had a 9-5 season in 1970, and if they did lose to the Rams at Yankee Stadium 31-3 in the season finale, if they had won that game, they would have been a wild card team. But the Rams trounced them. Merlin Olsen and company, really gave it to them. So I'm not crushed by putting Fran 5 there. That's not horrible.
Neither am I. I would also say, I mean, when you look at his career,
I didn't give you Eli, and I didn't give you a whammy.
Yeah, I was anticipating the latter of the 2.
Yeah.
So my list is pretty good.
Yeah, I feel good about my list as well.
I'm not upset with my list.
I've got Phil, Kerry, YA, Jeff, and Tarkenton.
Yeah.
From 1 to 5.
I got Tittle ahead of Collins, which, again, I think is a no-brainer, but that's good.
Well, just the one thing I was going to add was with Tarkenton. Now, Kerry didn't have a very long tenure with the Giants, but, Tarkenton, Vikings, is also a big part of his career.
But that doesn't count for the purposes of this.
But the reason I'm bringing that up is you're only looking at the Giants' tenure.
Right.
So when you look at it through that narrow lens, and Kerry helped them get to a Super Bowl, and like you said, Jeff,
this isn't that bad.
I would, even if I knew all 5, I'd still put Tarkenton number 5. I don't think, honestly, the more and more I look over this list, I'm not making any changes. Because you value, Frank's got sentimental value to you. Kerry holds a very special place for what he did within Giants history. So I still feel good about the order. And so far, I would say the season one is the only one that maybe came back to bite me a little bit. Other than that, I think I have played quite effectively.
I think you
Pearson's
both have.
mind games.
I'm just glad you didn't put Eli in the list because I would have been burned really bad.
Paul nailed it with I'm not going to put both of them.
I couldn't
Eli
see
and Phil.
you doing
You
it.
did too,
Yep.
Lance.
I couldn't see you doing it.
All right, so I do have 3 more categories.
Oh,
you want
wow.
to run through
We're
these
running out of
pretty
time.
quick? I know. All right, this one is interesting. It's places the Giants have played. Giants stadiums, their home.
Okay.
Yes.
You're serious.
I didn't think this was going to
We
make
can
the
do
cut.
this one quickly.
Yes, let's do this one
This
quickly, I would
is
say.
Shea Stadium is the first one.
Wow. Oh.
I mean, you pretty much know all of them.
Yeah, I do. I
Let's
do know
see,
all
though.
of them. So I don't. I mean,
Just put them in your order then, Paul.
well, it's Polo Grounds. It's Yankee Stadium. It's Yale Bowl, it's Shea, it's Giants Stadium, and it's MetLife. There are 6.
Yep.
Well, he clearly is not going to include all of them.
So one of them you left off your list.
Correct.
Well, I'll start it off. I'm going to go 5 for Shea Stadium.
Let's do this one quick.
It's also not a stadium to me that is synonymous with the Giants
Yeah.
from a long historical standpoint.
Let me just tell you, Yale Bowl would definitely be worse than Shea. If I had all 6 at my disposal, Yale Bowl would be at the bottom. That's the toilet bowl. That's the sewer.
Well, the only thing I will say is, given my Ivy League ties, I boost that place up slightly because of the history surrounding it.
All right, Shea Stadium is 5 for me.
Okay. Yankee Stadium.
I'll go Yankee Stadium 3. I certainly put it ahead of Shea.
2.
Okay. Giants Stadium.
1.
I'll go 1 as well. It's hard to go against the stadium that has its name on it, regardless of what you think about the layout of the land.
And also,
Well, the history of what happened in that building, too.
the Parcells teams.
No, of course.
Come on.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Polo Grounds.
I'll go Polo Grounds number 2.
3.
And
Okay.
the last one.
Yale Bowl.
Okay. What do you have Yale Bowl? What's left for you, Paul?
Yale Bowl's got to be 4 for me.
Okay, so it's
I got
4
no
for the
choice.
both of us.
4 for Yale Bowl and 5 for Shea. Part of me says I would want to have flipped that, but you make a very interesting point. Most people don't even associate Shea with the Giants. They do associate Yale Bowl with the Giants. A lot of people who know they played at Yale Bowl forget they even played 1975 at Shea.
Yeah. Well,
Most people forget that.
Well, because I think with Shea, you think more of Mets and Jets.
Right.
Right? Those are the
Right.
2 New York teams. If you were to throw out Shea Stadium, those were the first 2 teams that would come to mind.
And a place that was appropriately built in Flushing.
Yeah. So that's more of a reason why he easily put that 5.
So
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
Good lists.
Yep.
This one is Giants wins. Individual game
Oh,
wins.
this is impossible.
Yep. There's a million.
This is impossible.
Wait, individual meaning win totals from a season?
Nope. Just a game.
A game?
Oh,
this is impossible.
Giants games. It's
Okay.
Giants games, but they're all wins.
I probably
I'll tell
have
you that.
50 favorite Giants wins.
Sure.
During my tenure here.
The struggle is
I mean,
real
come
for
on.
Paul
This
Bettino.
is impossible.
Well, we're gonna try it.
Well, we're going to accomplish the impossible.
Well,
right
actually,
now.
though, but
Watch.
you've already narrowed it down by saying only wins.
Yes.
Well, that in itself is good because you're not going to sneak in a
Yes.
whammy with a
They're
loss.
all wins. I'll
Yeah,
tell
they're
you
all
that.
wins.
That's good.
Here's my follow.
Well, then you can't go wrong, no matter what it is. You can't be wrong.
Well, but are you doing mixing regular season and playoffs?
Yep.
Okay. No, that's important to note.
But you can't be wrong because every Giants win is a great day.
Okay,
So-
but there, from a significant standpoint, there's a distinct difference between winning the Super
I
Bowl
understand
and
that.
winning Game 15
I
of the
understand
regular
that.
season. Okay?
I understand
I
that.
have a million participation trophies to hand out to you.
Go ahead.
All right, Pearson.
All
Number
right.
1.
Number 1 is the Giants versus Packers 2007 NFC Championship.
Okay, well, that was certainly an epic game that had Paul's emotions riding all over the place. I'll go because the big question is how many Super Bowls is Pearson going to include in this? And much like you said, he didn't include Eli and Phil Simms.
He's not putting more than
He's
one.
not.
At most.
I would
At
say
most.
2 is going to be the max.
He won't do more than one. There's 4 of them. He's not going to do more than one. It's crazy.
So if that's the case, and I'm actually going to be influenced by you, I'll go Giants win over the Packers 2007, how it ended up, Tom Coughlin's red cheeks, how bitter cold it was. I'll go 2 for this one.
Okay.
I'll take 3.
All right. Giants versus Bills Super Bowl 1990.
All right, so there's 1 Super Bowl. We got
There's
that one
one.
off the list.
There's one.
So then we're assuming that he's not even touching the Patriots, which actually I can understand him not wanting to touch the Patriots.
Well,
but,
it brings him
yeah.
too much pain.
All right, so Giants Bills. What do you got? Are you going to go with your feeling that he's not going to include any other Super Bowls? You can't now backpedal. That's what you said. You said he's only going to do 1 Super Bowl.
You did say that.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, so then this to me is easy for you. You absolutely are putting this number 1. How do you?
I'm putting it at 2.
Oh, because you put Giants Packers 3.
I put Giants Packers 3. I
That's
put
right.
Giants Buffalo Super Bowl 25 at 2.
See, I have cornered myself here because I have been on the record that the highest, biggest stage is there's nothing ranking wise. Winning a championship is the pinnacle.
Of course.
You can't put another victory over that. So if I downgrade the Super Bowl victory and he doesn't throw out another Super Bowl, that's pie in my face. So to protect myself, Giants Bills 90 is number 1.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the rationale behind it.
Giants Vikings 2022 wild card game.
That was really fun. Really fun.
This is not the fun rankings.
It was very
this is
fun.
the win rankings.
I know.
Just to clarify.
Well, because in terms of significance, it doesn't. There are so many more significant wins by this franchise in
I'm
history.
completely with you.
That I've often told people here that from a working perspective, being that I work on the broadcast team, that was the most fun post non-Super Bowl drive postseason win that I've experienced. Because nobody ever thought that team would be a playoff team and then go on the road and beat the number 2 seed on their field. Man, being on the sideline that day, doing that, covering that game on the side from the sideline was absolutely incredible. The whiteout that they had in the Vikings.
It was a cool stadium.
Oh,
Yeah.
so cool. And they got the horn going.
Well, they do that, sure. Before every game. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Where do you
Now
got
that
it?
you've built it up.
Yep.
Okay.
it's 5.
After all that.
That's what I love. He sold that, guys, as if that was the creme de la creme.
Yes.
And then just,
Oh, because there's
okay, well, I'm going 5. You don't need to sell me because I am agreeing with there are so many other notable victories. I'm not going to
because
now put this one
This team
on a
has
pedestal.
a full handful of Super Bowl seasons. A full handful. So, like, if he picks one of the Niner playoff games, that's not gonna be behind this one.
Well, there's one Niners playoff game that he's not going to pick. I'll tell you that. So, because they're all wins, but that's a whole other story. All right.
All right, guys. Giants Vikings 41-0 2000 NFC Championship.
Okay, wow, the second Giants Vikings game that he picks. I'll go for this one. I'm going to go 4.
That's 4.
I'm
for
going
me.
to protect myself because I still have 3 opened, and we talked about this game earlier.
Yes.
How dominant it was, margin
Yes,
of victory.
that's 4.
So we
It's
don't need
4.
to revisit that.
I agree.
All right. You guys both have it at 4?
Both have it at 4.
All right. The final one is Giants vs. Niners NFC Championship 2011 20-17.
Okay. And that'll be
And
3
that's-
for me.
and that's my one.
That's your one, huh?
See,
Over the Super Bowl.
this one I will not sit well with in terms of allowing you off the hook. You cannot put, okay, an NFC Championship victory ahead of a Super Bowl under any circumstances. And you had the opportunity because you said he wasn't going to pick more
I
than
know.
one
You
Super Bowl.
did.
And you went against that and still downgraded. So I'm going to criticize you for
Here's-
that, Paul.
here's-
And I know there's no right or wrong answers, but this one I'm going to get on.
Here's where I will.
But you were
defend
wrong.
here's where I will defend myself. Okay.
Okay.
Here's where I will defend myself. From a personal perspective, I was talking to Peter Ginta, the Giants secondary coach,
DB, yeah.
when the Giants were out to San Francisco during the regular season that year. I'm talking to Peter Ginta on the sideline before the game, and I said to him, I don't know what's going to happen today, but this team is coming back here for the NFC Championship game in a couple of months. You know that, right? And he goes, you think so? And I said, mark my words. The Giants are coming back here for the NFC Championship game, and regardless of what happens today, that's the game that matters. And not only did that happen, but then it happened in a freaking pigsty of a slop of Candlestick Park.
Sure.
And I have
Raining,
so much personal enjoyment out of that game. Yeah.
So once again, it's sentimental value that you're bringing in to the story here.
My suit, as you know, I wear a suit when I'm with the team on the road to do the post-game show. I'm on the sideline in San Francisco. The mud was so bad that my suit pants were covered in mud all the way up to my knees.
You didn't roll them up?
It looked like I had run in the Kentucky Derby. I was so
surprised.
full of mud.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't roll them up. So, Now,
it was incredible.
do you still have
It was
the suit?
incredible.
Did you take it to the dry cleaners?
Yes.
Or did you leave it muddy?
No, of
See,
course.
you
I came
did that-
home and my wife was appalled.
No, but-
She goes, "What did you do?"
I can
and I
see-
said, "I was on the field."
I could see you, though, taking the suit, framing it, and then writing
Oh, my
down
goodness.
the quote
Not a bad
that
idea.
you told the Giants coach.
After that game, I'm
Yeah.
on the field, right? Go on the field after Tynes hits the winning field goal.
Yep.
And I get Brandon Jacobs as one of the guys, of course. He bursts into tears. He starts crying.
That was because you were the first person he saw.
No
Can
doubt.
you blame him?
No doubt. One of my guys.
Most
right?
guys would say that. They're sky high. They're going to a Super Bowl. The first guy he sees is Paul Dottino. Yes, but go ahead.
No, but he just starts crying. It was awesome. It was totally awesome. And the reason was because he wanted to go get his other son. He had a Super Bowl championship with the Giants prior. This was the second one, so he could get his other son a Super Bowl ring.
Makes sense.
And of course, he knew, as we all did, that they were going to go on and win. There was never a doubt in my mind they'd beat New England. That wasn't even.
Of course.
Okay, moving on.
You know.
Oh, is there still one more?
There's one
okay,
more.
Let's finish up here with one more.
Yes, this is
What do we got?
best celebrations.
Oh, he's going to hate this category.
Yep.
I can tell you.
I don't know.
This
We'll see.
actually goes below stadiums for Paul. There's no way you're gonna like. You're anti-celebration.
This.
Well, meaning
We'll
there's,
see,
there's
we'll see.
players that I'm assuming are synonymous with specific celebrations, right? Whether it's a sack,
It can be
whether
that
it's a
or
touchdown.
specific celebration. After
Well, we're
a play.
talking about the parade.
No,
Broadway?
no.
How do you
This is
rank
right
them?
after a play.
How do you rank
This
parades?
is right after the plays.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's a play celebration.
Yes.
Well, they're all 5.
Okay.
You guys know I'm not in favor of those.
I can't get over. He just goes parades.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the confetti for this one was just, it was made
Yeah.
unlike anywhere else that I've ever seen.
Let's just
Okay.
make this easy, right?
Yeah.
Celebration.
We'll
Cruz
go
is
quick.
number 1, and the rest of them are all 5.
All
Let's
right.
just make it easy.
Homer Jones invents the spike.
Oh, see, he's going old school.
So you did go back to the olden days.
I told you there were a couple.
I like his thinking.
You know what? Wow. In deference to Homer, I don't have a problem making that number 1.
How can you not?
I don't have a problem with
The
that.
Everybody
spike
does
is
it.
So, correct. He set the standard.
Homer
He's
Jones,
got to be
number one.
1.
Homer Jones,
no matter
number
what
one.
you think of Victor Cruz's
Yeah.
salsa.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
I'm with.
But again,
Homer Jones has to be
Victor
one.
Cruz's salsa was part of a Super Bowl, and of course Homer was playing on some bad teams.
Yeah, but
But I'm going with Homer. Homer's number
what
1.
everybody else followed through. If Homer doesn't
You're right.
do that, who's to say we ever have the spike?
You're right. You're right. Homer's number 1.
I mean, maybe Rob Gronkowski was the one that would have all of a sudden brought along the spike. Just bringing in the New England ties to make sure everybody's satisfied. Go ahead. Yes.
Justin Tuck sack bowing in the Super Bowl after sacking Tom Brady.
So is it specifically on that play, or is it just that he did that after every sack?
You could take it either way.
Yeah,
I
would
chose
take
I
it-
chose specific plays to make it easier.
I'm going to go Justin Tuck. I'll go 3.
5.
I mean, listen, he made significant impacts
He did.
in multiple Super Bowls. So, and we're talking about game-changing
You know
type
how
of
I
plays.
feel about celebrations.
So,
I'm going 5.
That's why I told you you'd love this exercise.
I'm going 5.
Okay,
All right.
I'll go 3.
Cruz salsa after the
All right, here we
99-yarder.
2.
But he specifically, wait,
90.
for this one, is it the specific Jets game in
He
99?
said it could be for
You
anything.
can take it either way.
Well,
It
but
can be
like-
generic, or I chose a play so that there was some more significance to
Remember, he broke it out in Philly.
it. That's true.
Sure.
He broke it out in Philly. His first ever salsa was in Philly,
Yeah.
in front of those people. That was nice.
That was with the Nam Diasamoah, right?
yes.
Play? I remember.
Yes.
I'm going to go Victor Cruz 4.
Okay. And then Burris OT winner against the Eagles hucks the ball into the stands, silencing the Eagles crowd.
4.
I'll go 5 for Burris.
Okay. So what is your open spots?
I have 2 open.
3.
Okay. McConkey jumping into Bavaro's arms against the Broncos after the tip touchdown.
Now, you know what Paul thinks about that Broncos
I
game.
know.
We just went over, and I knew you were saving
I was
one,
saving
so
something.
I'm perfectly okay with McConkey being number 2.
And I'm great with it being 3.
Okay. So, Homer, McConkey, Tuck, Cruz, Burris for me.
I got Jones, Cruz, McConkey, Burris, and Tuck. Burris and Tuck should be flipped. If I had my way, I'd flip those 2, but that's 4 and 5. It's not very, very relevant.
No. I think all in all, if I knew all 5, I would have stuck with that.
Okay.
That's it, guys.
Yeah. All right. Well,
It took us a while.
it did. Well, we
brought
had
up
some good back
combo.
and forth
Yeah.
in between. So, all things considered,
Well,
not
I'd
bad.
like to think that some of the stories and commentary were more entertaining than the votes.
With that, well, listen,
Exactly, that's why we
listening
do
to
it.
you at the lunch table with anybody underneath the sun and conversations with Giants coaches, your muddy suit, Brandon Jacobs coming over to you on the field. Have we missed anything? We actually should have ranked, Pearson, every story that Paul told
Yes.
and then recited that
Yes.
back. I mean,
His suit,
remarkable.
the crying.
yes, absolutely. All right, let's try to squeeze in maybe a caller or 2 here before we wrap up shop. Because
Do
I
we
know
have anybody?
we've got a few people that have been waiting patiently
Really?
through all of your
Wow.
reminiscing.
Yeah, let's
So yeah,
get them in.
I don't
Get
want
them in.
to throw them to the wayside. Let's try to squeeze them in here. All right, let's go to Jacob in Binghamton with us on Big Blue Kickoff Live. What's happening, Jacob? What do you got for us?
Hi, how you guys doing?
Doing all right. What's on
Hi.
your mind?
Thank you for taking the call. I was sitting here kind of thinking, I'm like, they might not get to me.
I'm
Well-
glad you held, and thank you for
Yeah.
for being patient.
Yeah, of course. 2 things, quick. One was I talked the other day about the Giants' defense and how they had to be like top 15 at least. And one thing I was really thinking about is just we've added a lot of depth, but it still scares me. Our cornerback depth just kind of frightens me a little bit. If one of these guys goes down, like if we have the depth to kind of stick in with a lot of these receivers we're going to, especially in division.
Well, right now as it stands, and you know this, I said it right after free agency and the kind of wave was over. I said if I could add somebody else, I would try to get a veteran corner. I would try to get an experienced veteran corner to, be that Leon Hall, be that Sensabaugh, be that extra guy who's got experience, who's been in this league and done some things, who could provide some insurance. So I'm with you. I'd like to see that. Right now, your 2 primary backups, I think, at the corner spot are Cordell Flott, who I like a lot, but has had a lot of trouble staying healthy. Last year was one of his better years, but he's had trouble staying healthy. And Trey Hawkins, can he make a significant jump to give you some confidence that he could play in a big spot? I don't know the answer to that.
And they also have Corey Black, but he's a 7th-round pick from
Yeah,
this year, and there's no
that's an
lock that he
unknown.
even makes the team. I'm just saying other guys that have at least recently come in through the draft. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of the land of the unknown, and even Hawkins has been a bit up and down throughout his Giants tenure. So I understand the concern. I don't think it's crazy for them to entertain maybe bringing in a veteran or claiming somebody off of waivers once all of the initial wave of rosters are finalized. They could very well do that. Somebody could wind up becoming available that we're not anticipating at this point.
Well, we did try. I believe we tried to make a trade for Alexander from Green Bay, right? And now he's available.
Well, at one point, that was reportedly a conversation. I can't confirm that. Now, what is his status right now? I don't know. I mean, Green Bay and him obviously had an impasse in terms of his contract. He clearly wanted a better deal. And they decided, you know what, rather than have this unhappy camper here, we're going to try to move him. They couldn't get a bite, and now they cut him. I don't know where he stands. What kind of money does he want? Does he even want to come into a camp? Does he want to wait until the very end of training camp and sign with somebody? We have no idea what he's thinking.
Yeah, he also may be one of those players that waits for a team to lose a guy due to injury and all of a sudden could come into a situation that could very well be a lot more attractive. And I would think with Alexander, even though most teams don't have a boatload of money, money is part of that conversation because money contributed to why he did not stay put with the Green Bay Packers. So I would take that into consideration, and the Giants right now are not in financial flexibility mode
No.
where they can all of a sudden make a big splash addition like that. So that could be a little bit tougher to pull off based on what we're saying with respect to somebody else who's also on the free agent market or somebody that becomes available through the waiver wire
I don't
process.
think any veteran who's sitting out there right now on his sofa is too anxious to sign with anybody. I think they're more than likely going to wait and see how things play out.
Yeah.
And that goes for a guy like Asante Samuel, who's been often injured, but we know has ability. Stephon Gilmore, who, by the way, with the Bills connection, I'm sure they have a lot of information on Stephon Gilmore because of the time that he was in Buffalo. Remember, that Bean and Shane are as tight as can be. So I'm sure that the Giants have great intel on Stephon Gilmore. And again, I know he's older, but he's also not going to get very much money.
Well, I just want to confirm and appreciate the phone call. Thanks for giving us a ring. Something tells me I thought Gilmore was there before that tenure started, though, Paul. Let's
He was
see.
there before Bean?
Yeah, because Gilmore was there from 12 to 16. So they came in 17.
Bean
So,
missed him
yeah,
by a
I don't
year.
think they crossed
My
paths.
apologies.
No, that's fine. No, that's why I wanted to cover
I
it. But
thought that Bean had him for a year.
Where I thought you were going to go is he was on the Cowboys in 23. They saw him twice that season.
Oh, there's no-
I think
no
they
doubt
have,
they've
they
seen
have
him.
actually more recent examples of Gilmore
Yeah.
than going back in time with the Buffalo Bills. So
But
they've
those are
seen him
two
up close
veteran
and
names,
personal.
Gilmore and Samuel.
Sure.
Asante Samuel, and obviously you mentioned Alexander. There are some definite Fuller's out there too, isn't he?
Kendall Fuller?
I'm pretty sure he's a free agent too.
He is. Let me see which of the.
I mean, there
members.
are some names out there who have done some things in this league before.
Oh, sure.
It's not going to be hard to grab one off the scrap heap if you want to do it.
Well, here's the thing with these corners. Like I said, a lot of them can get away with not being in camp because they've been in the league quite some time. And Kendall Fuller is available. He was with the Dolphins last year. He was a free agent. And then on top of that, I also think they're in no rush.
No.
Because they're in a attractive spot where they know guys are going to get hurt. Why jump the gun and sign with a team when all of a sudden something could come to fruition that you did not anticipate? We've got Jason in New Haven here. Jason, welcome aboard. What do you got for us?
Hey, Lance and Paul, how you guys doing?
All right. So what's on your mind?
I know we're pressed against time, so I won't make all the points I wanted to make. I'll just try to condense it to one or two. Paul, going back to a point you and Lance made earlier, I think it was more Paul, but it might have been you two. How Tiki Barber's not in the Hall of Fame to me, I just, me personally, he is a Hall of Famer. I'm going to name three guys that are in the Hall of Fame that he has more all-purpose yards than. You got Tony Dorsett, who's a Hall of Famer. You got Thurman Thomas, who's a Hall of Famer. You got Terrell Owens, who's a Hall of Famer. I'm not saying he's a better player than those three, but if we're going based off of just raw stats, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. So I just wanted to, throw that out there. I think he is a Hall of Famer, and I guess the way he went out his last year with the Giants, maybe that's dinged him along the way, but going off raw stats, how he's not in the Hall of Fame to me is a joke. So
I would say this: if you're looking for the people who are anti-Tiki, all right, and by the way, I'm all about Tiki Barber, but if you're looking for guys to ding his candidacy, they could ding him on the following items. Number one is he was a part-time player the first half of his career. Remember, he was supposed to be a third down back and a kick returner. And then Fossil made him a full-time player. So that would be number one. Number two, significant fumbleitis problems early in his career until Tom Coughlin got here, and they fixed that. Him and Gerald Ingram, the running backs coach, fixed that. That's another thing people will ding him on. The third thing they'll ding him on is he actually got to one Super Bowl, and boy, Ray Lewis ate him for lunch. That was not his fault necessarily, but that wasn't good. He had a real strong season that year. It wasn't one of his best seasons. He had better ones later on, but he had a really nice season in 2000.
Right.
And Ray Lewis dominated that game, and
Paul,
he attached himself to Tiki Barber. So that's what they'll do. That's what the naysayers will do. That's what they'll throw up at you. I'm not saying that they're justified,
right,
but those are their points.
Right. That year, that Ravens defense, in my opinion, was the best defense in NFL history. You could have put Barry Sanders back there, and he would have got 2 yards the whole thing. So,
I hear you.
Well, I mean,
I'm
the
not
only
buying
other
that
thing,
one.
though, Jason, that I wouldn't overlook is if you look at Thurman Thomas and Tony Dorsett's resumes, they have, I think, better individual accomplishments than Tiki Barber in terms
Right.
of
No, I get
all
it.
pros, Pro Bowls. Thurman was an MVP, Offensive Player of the Year. We're talking about. Tiki doesn't have that on his resume, so
I get
that also hurts
I
him.
get that.
Had he
Yeah.
I
played
get
one more season, because let's face it, we all know he had another 1,000-yard season in him. There's no doubt about that. No one's going to convince me he wouldn't have run for another 1,200 yards if he had stuck around one more year. They could never have kept him out. Seriously, if he went another 1,000-yard season, there's nothing that anybody could have done to keep him out of camp. But he retired a year too early, in my opinion.
I'll make one last point, and I'll call back on my other points next week or the following week, whatever. My last point, I know last week Jalen Hyatt came up, or maybe it was early this week. I don't know if it was Paul or John. One of you gentlemen brought him up as somebody that needs to prove something this year.
I think it was Paul and I had that conversation.
I think we've all
last
talked
week,
about it on this show.
Yeah. Hmm?
Yeah, that's not even a disagreeable take. But I will say, I called a few weeks ago and stated that, young players sometimes take different routes to success.
Mm-hmm.
And while he hasn't shown anything, he does have talent. He won the Biletnikoff Award. And
Yep.
I'll make this last point about him. Fans, and I'm not talking to you two gentlemen, I always preface that. I know you guys know your stuff. But for fans who are always quick to jump on players, I'm going to name two players, and you guys, maybe, during this exercise you had, which I enjoyed. He hasn't shown much in these 2 years. He's had some flashes here and there, specifically that Arizona game 2 years ago, his rookie year, right? But I want to mention there was two receivers you guys mentioned who took some time. One took 3 years and one took 2 years to really pop. And they were taken higher than Jalen Hyatt. Now, I'm not saying his career is going to be what these guys were. Granted, one was better than the other, right? I'm going to name Ike Hilliard, who was a top 10 pick, I believe, in 96.
Terribly
97?
injured throughout his entire career, though. Ike, with pound for pound, was one of the toughest players that I've ever known in my entire career. And I love Ike Hilliard. Very underrated player. But let me just tell you, Ike, many a days, was practically scotch taped together. He was battered and beaten and broken, and he just kept coming back for more and more and more. As good as he was, and he was a really good player, he would have been so much better had he not been just broken and basically cracked like a pretzel. He was badly beaten his whole career.
Yeah, Ike only played 2 games his rookie year, so you can pretty much throw that to the wayside. Now, granted, Jalen is entering year 3 here, so, we're not necessarily miles away, but Hilliard's first season, I don't even know if it's something to entertain.
And my guess is Amani Toomer's the other guy you're going to throw out there, but remember, Amani shredded his knee. He shredded his ACL, right away, early in his career, and he also wound up with a second ACL later on in his career too.
Right, absolutely. There's always going to be caveats to these conversations, right? Those two definitely had injuries. But what I'm saying is, I tell other fans, some of my people, friends that I watch Giants game with, don't be so quick to give up on young players. There is some talent there.
Yeah.
Well, he's still on a rookie contract, Jason. So, yeah. I mean, they're not. I didn't mean to cut you over. Just we're up against, obviously, the end of the show and then some, and appreciate the phone call. He's still on a rookie contract. There's no level of urgency to move on from him. He's not a burden on the salary cap. So from that standpoint alone, just from an economic standpoint, no, there's absolutely no reason to give up. And some of it also is opportunity, getting on the field, getting targets. Remember, it's not just about the player producing. It's about at-bats. Does he have the chances to make plays? It goes 2 ways. But I don't think anybody, no matter where you feel about the player, if you're just looking at it from a pure money standpoint, no, it would be silly to give up on a player not that far removed from being drafted.
He is the 4th receiver on the depth chart. And right now, there's nothing he can do to climb into the top 3. Okay? But the question becomes, can he be a dangerous number 4? Or if he doesn't, and he's a show-me player, if he doesn't, then Theo Johnson might wind up being the fourth option in the passing game. The tight end could wind up being more important as a flex tight end than putting Jalen Hyatt on the field if he doesn't get it done.
But I think, to your point, going into this season, you're looking at him at number 4, situational opportunities, and hopefully he stays healthy. And if somebody does get hurt, he can step in.
That's the
and
hope.
Make plays.
That's the hope.
Beyond that, it would pretty much be icing on the cake, because right now we don't even know from a playing time snap standpoint what's
Right.
ahead of him this
We don't.
season. All right, that is going to wrap up Wednesday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live. Just a quick reminder, with another impactful drafted free agency class in the books, that means it's full steam ahead for the 2025 season. You can take your fandom to the next level with a Giant season ticket membership. Catch all the action at MetLife Stadium with an exciting home schedule on the horizon. With a membership, you'll stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days, with exclusive member access and benefits. To learn more about a New York Giants season ticket membership, visit Giants.com/tickets. As we are broadcasting from the Giants podcast studio presented by Hackensack Meridian Health, keep getting better. We appreciate everybody tuning in to this edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, part of the Giants platforms everywhere, and Giants.com/podcast, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. For Paul Dottino, I'm Lance Meadow. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. We'll see you Thursday right here on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Have a good one.